How you doing today? Hey, I wanted to talk to you today about credit, and specifically having great credit. Having great credit's easy. I know you probably think it's hard and it's a lot of work and a lot of discipline. Got to have a lot of money, but that's not the case at all. Having great credit is easy. Now, I just finished up. I just went to the chiropractor. I woke up this morning with, I think, a pinched nerve or rib was out. So I went to the chiropractor and he adjusted me. And it was very easy for him to do that. I couldn't do what he did. And I drove there in my truck just like I'm driving now. And it was easy for me to drive there. But I remember when I was 12 years old learning how to drive, it wasn't easy at first. It was hard. And it was difficult. And you had to really concentrate on what you're doing. Do you find yourself doing that? That things that are new to you are harder than things you've done for a long time, right? Driving's easy. Yet there are some bad drivers out there, right? I mean, you want to see some, come to Vegas. But having great credit is actually easy. But neglecting your credit, neglecting your bills is also very easy. The problem with it is if you neglect your bills, if you neglect your credit because you don't think it's that important, you're going to pay for it later. You're going to pay for it in higher insurance rates. You're going to pay for it in higher interest. You're going to pay for it in higher products. Gasoline, groceries, electricity, cell phone. Everything costs more when you have bad credit. It's a fact. Now, I know there's a lot of people out there that preach the pay cash for everything. If you can't afford to pay cash for it, you can't afford to buy it. That kind of nonsense, right? Cut up your credit cards. But we're not living in the 1950s. We're not living in the 1800s anymore. Today's world, the fast-paced world that we live in, requires, if you want to get ahead, it requires that you have good credit. It requires that you don't neglect your bills. I have people on a weekly basis ask me for money. They want me to invest in something every single week. Every week. It used to be a couple $1,000s. First it started out a couple $100s. And then it got a little bit more successful. Then it was a couple $1,000s. I got a little bit more successful. And now it's $100,000 at a pop. I mean, every week someone's asking me for $100,000. And I politely decline. Sometimes I don't even respond to them. But I figured something out. I figured this out, that if the bank, with all of their technology and all of their data and their success, if a bank is not willing to loan that person money, why in the hell would I loan them money? Right? Would you? If a bank who's in the business of loaning money says no, why would you do it? Just because you want to? Because they're your friend? Do you think you're smarter than the bank? The bank's got to figure it out. They really, truly do. I know you might not like the bank. Everybody seems to hate the bank until they want money. And then they hate them more because they get turned down because they got bad credit. But having good credit is easy. So how do you have good credit? What can you do today to ensure that you have great credit for the rest of your life? What is it that you can do today? Here's what you can do. First thing I want you to do is you need to get 3 credit cards. If you don't have 3 credit cards right now, you need to go get 3 credit cards. Where do you go? Well, if you just have poor credit, maybe you don't have bad credit, but you have a poor credit score due to the fact that you don't have any credit cards, you can go to creditkarma.com. go to creditkarma.com. I don't make any money from them. I'm not an affiliate of theirs. It's simply they're an affiliate website for credit cards. They make the money, I don't. So creditkarma.com, not /Rondy Lambeth or anything like that. Just creditkarma.com. They're going to give you a list of credit cards that you will most likely be approved for. That's your first step. Now, if you already have 3 credit cards, what can you do? You need to pay those suckers down. You need to pay them off as fast as possible. Get them below 10% utilization rate. Pay them off in full every single month. I don't want you paying interest to have good credit. It's not worth it. So I have people say all the time, I don't have great credit, or I don't have credit because I don't have debt. Well, you'll never have credit if you don't have any debt. That is true. If you live a 100% debt-free life, you're never going to have good credit or great credit or even poor credit. Eventually, you'll have a no credit score. But you're going to pay more. I paid less. I paid 5% less for this coffee today because I used my American Express card versus cash. I paid less for this shirt that I'm wearing because I used a credit card. I paid less for the gasoline in my truck because I used a credit card, because you get cash back, right? But I don't want you paying interest just to have good credit, so you pay it off in full. So number 1, you need to get 3 credit cards. Number 2, you need to pay those credit cards down. If you have credit cards with balances, pay them down below 10%. If you don't have balances, you need to, number 3, use your credit cards every single month. I call it the 3-1-1 rule. You have to use your credit cards every single month. Now in my pocket right now, I have 2 credit cards. I have my American Express Platinum for my business, and I have my Chase Freedom for my personal. That's it. I don't carry all my credit cards with me. A couple reasons. One, if I lost my wallet, whether I got pickpocketed because I was down on the strip like I was yesterday, or if I just misplaced it and left it somewhere, I don't have to cancel every single credit card that I have. I only got to cancel those 2. So it makes it convenient, more convenient for me down the road. But I carry 2 credit cards, 1 business, 1 personal. I never use a business credit card for personal, and I never use my personal card for business. Ever. You keep it separate. Now, if you don't have a business, then you don't have to worry about that. But don't be carrying around 15, 20 credit cards with you. Carry 1 or 2. If you travel, maybe you want to take 3 or 4 with you. Keep most of them locked up in the safe in your hotel room and carry 1 with you. Same reason if you lose it, right? But you want to have multiple cards with you when you travel, because maybe one of the cards gets shut down or maybe you lose it. Well, you want to have a backup. So 3 credit cards immediately. Pay it down to 10% or less. Pay it off in full if you can. If you like to get the points and you max out the credit cards, pay it off early. Call them up and ask them, when do they report to the credit bureaus? When do you report? Oh, you report on the 15th. Great. I'll make sure I have it paid off in full by the 14th. That way it doesn't show the high limits, the high balances on your limit, right? And the next thing you can do is on your installment loans. You got to keep them going, right? But on the credit cards, the reason you need to pay them, use them every single month, is if you don't use your credit card every single month, after 45 to 90 days, FICO, the Fair Isaac Corporation, will consider that account to be closed and that the bank just forgot to stop reporting it. So if you have credit cards and you're not using them every month and you're keeping a 0 balance on that credit card, FICO, the Fair Isaac Company, is going to think the banks closed it and forgot to turn it off, the notifications to the credit bureaus. And this happens all the time. I see it every single week. People call, we look at their credit card, their credit report, they got a bunch of credit cards all showing 0 balance, and they say, I closed that account 4 years ago, but it's still reporting every month. The thing is FICO knows this, so FICO kicks it out of the formula or the algorithm, and so it doesn't help you. So you need to use your cards every single month to keep activity going. It's kind of like working out. You need to exercise every day. If you don't, your muscles are going to get weak, right? You're going to lose what you gained. And it's the same thing with the credit cards. You got to use them. Now, how can you use them without getting yourself in trouble? It's really quite simple. What you want to do is get some bills. Got your electric bill, your car insurance bill, your cell phone bill, your water bill, your internet bill, right? Your electricity bill, your gas bill, your Netflix bill, Hulu, Amazon, whatever. You see where I'm going with this. You get your normal bills that you pay anyway every month and set them up on these credit cards that you're not using. For example, I have a Sears MasterCard. I've had it now since 2010. I think I have a $15,000 credit limit on it. Every month, I spend $9.99 on that Sears MasterCard with a $15,000 credit limit. Now that $9.99 is my Netflix bill. And I think I read recently it's going up to $10.99. I don't know. But $9.99 every month goes on Netflix. And every month, through my manage auto payments at Sears.com, I pay off my balance in full every month. Automatically comes out of the checking account, right? So it's kind of on autopilot. It's easy. When you start doing stuff like this, it makes things easy, right? This is how you can set your credit on autopilot, your bills. And you got to do that on all your credit cards that you don't carry with you every day. Make sure you're spending something every single month on a credit card. Otherwise, FICO kicks it out of the formula. You don't get credit for it and they think it's closed. The last thing you can do on the 311 is your car loans. Your car loans, your student loans, your boat loans, motorcycle loans, whatever you got. Your installment loans. Not a mortgage, not a credit card, installment loan. A loan that you borrowed money from a bank and you're making the same payment every month in installments. That is an installment loan. You never want to pay those off early. You want to go full term on those loans. Similar to if you were pregnant, you want to go full term, right? You don't want to have the baby 4 months into it. You want to be 9-10 months into it. That way their heart's fully developed. Their lungs are developed. You don't want to have a baby at 6 months. The baby stays in the hospital. It gets sick, has lifetime issues. You always want to go full term with your pregnancies. Installment loans are the same way. You always want to go full term. So if you borrow money from a bank for 5 years, you don't pay it off early. You go the full term. Now, what if you want to pay it off so you don't have to pay interest? And that's the reason people pay off their bills early, is so they can pay less interest, right? It's really simple. You pay the loan down to the number of months remaining on the loan times $1. So if you did a 5-year loan, 60 months, and you're a year into it, and you got 48 months to go, well, 48 times 1 is 48, right? 48 times $1 is 48. You simply pay it down to 48 bucks, and then you pay $1 a month for 48 months. Now, there's going to be some interest in there, so you got to keep track of that. But you got 4 years to pay that down, right? What happens when you get a car and you get a 5-year loan and you trade it in or pay it off every year? It shows that your average length of credit history is 1 year, which drives down your credit score by approximately 75 points or 15%. You always want to go full term on these loans. Now, what if you only lease? Well, the problem with leasing is they're usually a 2 to 3 year lease. And so if every year you're leasing a new car, or every 2 years or every 3 years, your average length of credit history will decline. You can go and counteract that a little bit by keeping some other loans open for a long time, like a credit card would help. So it's not just installment loans, but it's actually average credit history of all of your credit history. So you don't want to be getting credit cards and closing them down every year or so. Right? So those are the couple things you can do. Another thing you can do is you gotta start using auto bill pay. Use the online bill pay. It's free at every single bank that I know of. I've never heard of anybody paying for it. It is free. And if it's not free at your bank, go find a different bank, right? Because it should be free. They send the payments for you. They keep track of it for you. They pay it for you. I mean, they take care of everything. You just got to make sure there's money in your bank account. And with our Credit Mojo app, which is credit monitoring service, you can actually put all of your bills inside Credit Mojo. So you log into one place, pay all your bills from one place. It's pretty cool. So those are some of the things that you can do to have great credit. And it's easy, right? Once you learn how to do it, it's easy. Just like driving my truck, pretty easy. Almost like autopilot. Can be a little challenging here in Las Vegas because people are crazy in how they drive. So you got to pay attention. Now, if you want, sitting here in the office, I can answer any questions if you have any. Otherwise, I'm going to get in the office, see how the team's doing. Let me look at something real quick. Somebody said leasing. Never lease, Brendan. That's probably a pretty good rule to never lease. There, it switched over to my Wi-Fi at the office. But there are cases when you do want to lease, Brendan. There are cases. Generally speaking, if you don't have a business, you probably shouldn't be leasing a car. If you're leasing a car because you want a new car and you can't afford to buy it, so you lease it, generally that's not a good idea. I'd rather see you with some money in the bank account. It's like 76% of Americans have less than $1,000 in their bank account. I'd hate to see you leasing your car so you can drive a new car every 3 years and you have no savings. So if you are going to lease because you have to have a new car every 2 to 3 years, if you're one of those people, and I know they're out there, you got to have a new car every couple of years, then leasing might be the way to go. I don't know. I don't lease vehicles. I do lease equipment because of the depreciation through the business. Now, if you have a business, leasing potentially is much, much better than buying. It just depends on what you're doing, okay? So creditmojo.com, thank you. For example, I'm looking at a 2018 Toyota Tundra Crew Max to replace my 2010 that I'm sitting in. And I'm considering leasing a truck. Now, this is a business vehicle, not personal. Why would I lease it versus buy it? Well, the main reason is because if I lease it, I get to write everything off. I get to write off the lease payment, the gas, the insurance, the maintenance, everything, because it's a business vehicle. Where if I bought it, I could write off mileage, but the mileage, for the amount of mileage that I drive now, the office is 3 miles away from my house. I don't really drive a lot, so the mileage is not a good idea for me. I could do actual payments. The problem is you can't write off the payment on the principal, only the interest, and with the new trucks it's 0% interest or 1.9 at worst, so there's not a lot of money there. So leasing might be the way to go. The only reason I wouldn't lease is if I could Section 179 it and rapid depreciate it, which is that means I can write off up to $500,000 of the purchase price. So if I bought a truck and it's $60,000, I buy it with zero down because I have great credit and I finance it for 5 years at 0%, I get a $60,000 write-off that day. It's called Section 179, and certain things have to apply. But if the truck wouldn't qualify for Section 179, then I might look at leasing. So that was the only comment I saw on there. All right, doesn't look like anybody's got any questions, so I'm going to run into the office and get to work. So here's the thing. Having great credit is easy. There's a couple things you need to do. Use bill pay. Get 3 credit cards as soon as possible. Pay your credit cards down to at least 10% of the utilization rate or no more. Pay them off in full if you can. But if you can't, get them down as low as possible. Doesn't matter if it's 1 credit card maxed out and 1 paid down to 0. They average all the credit cards up and divide it by the number of cards and divide it by your credit limit is the utilization rate. So if you got 1 card that's really high interest, pay it down as fast as possible. The other one's at 0%, leave it maxed out. But it's the overall utilization rate that they're looking at, right? And then installment loans, always go full term. If you want to pay it off early, like I did with the truck, because you don't want to pay interest, or like I did with the Jeep, or the motorcycles, or anything else I have in installment loans, the trailers, snowmobiles, I always pay them down to the number of months remaining times $1. So like this truck I financed, I think it was for 84 months. I paid it down as fast as possible to like 50, 60 bucks, and then I paid $1 a month for 4 or 5 years on it. All right, let's see here. Brent says, do you set up business credit? I do. I do have a business credit program, training program where I teach you step by step, move by move, how to establish business credit. And if you want information on that, Brent, send me a direct message. I have 1 left, and I'm going to get rid of it before the end of the year. I got 1 spot, and we're going to do a 50% off sale for that 1 spot. So if you're interested in that, send me a direct message. I've been selling them for $5,000. I'd sell it for $1,500. It's pretty decent. It's more than 50% off, right? It's like 70% off. In fact, that is 70%. So $1,500. Just because I'm going to focus on building my credit repair business and kind of not focus as much on the business credit for now. So I got 1 left. Is all I got. So if you want it, direct message me. Otherwise, it's going to be gone soon. All right, I'm going to get in the office. Remember, fix your credit. Fix your life. If you need credit repair help, go to fortresscreditpro.com or direct message me here. Have a great day.